and welcome to the Run the Day podcast. I'm your host, Nick Simmons. With me, as always, is Cam. Cam, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
We're coming to, this is the first episode from the new HQ.
We're in the new HQ.
Run Gum got so big, we outgrew our old warehouse. We moved across town. We're now in an area of Eugene called Thurston, which is technically in Springfield, and we've got a big warehouse.
Yeah,
full
it's
of
really
gum.
pretty.
And it's what a perfect guest for our first podcast from the new space. David Meltzer. This guy is next level inspirational.
Wow, so much wisdom behind what he does. The nuggets you guys are going to pick up in this episode are really going to change your life.
He structures his day in such a meticulous way. His assistant says, hey, you've got him for 20 minutes. And we took it to 19 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yep.
And it's almost, it's all you need because he just packs so many words of wisdom, so many nuggets into such a concise, well thought out message.
Yeah, which just shows the structure of his day and how intentional he is with each minute. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the relationships he has, the way he works. Each person knows that they have his time when it's that set.
And he brings the focus. He's not distracted. When he's there, he is in the moment. He is present, and he is giving you everything he's got. Let's jump right into this one. Without further ado, it's David Meltzer. All right, here he is coming to us from Orange County. It's David Meltzer. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you so much for having me on.
You got warm blue skies down there?
Not yet. We're on June gloom, if you remember.
Oh, no. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, it'll burn off by 11.
Oh, perfect. Is that the big marine layer that comes in?
You got it. It's like Seattle until 11, and then it's perfection after that.
Do you ever even get to see the outside, though? You're working so hard. I don't know how you do it, but you must be just going from meeting to meeting.
I do. I'm very productive with my time, which is why, I limit every meeting like this to 20 minutes, every phone call to 5 minutes. I put minimums amount of times. I lower the bar to things I do, and extremely aware about time and two contexts of time. One is the pragmatic man-made construct of time, 24-hour day, see how productive and accessible I am. And then also the infinity of time. So how do I use relativity and perception to bend time to also produce productivity and accessibility?
And I absolutely love that. It's our most precious resource, isn't it? Well, I'm not going to waste any of yours. We got exactly 20 minutes. And I want to dig into this thought. It's something you talk about a lot, how healthy thoughts can help you to maximize your life. Could you dig into that one a little bit more for us?
Yeah, I just was talking to my 9-year-old today. They changed the schedule of cartoons in the morning, and he's on his last week of school, and they must have taken off SpongeBob SquarePants from the 7 a.m. schedule. And he started putting faith in what he did want. And I said, hey, buddy, put faith in what you want. If you want SpongeBob to be on, then go ahead and just think about it being on at 7:30 instead of 7, which will work out fine next week when you're out of school. And so I know that's a simple example, but that's what people do is they immediately go and put faith in what they don't want into the negative void shortages and obstacles that are present or not present, depending on their own perspective or illusions that they create for themselves. I create or manifest the world I want. And I do that with faith. And faith is a lot of times has religious connotations to it. To me, it doesn't. Faith to me is very simple. It's what I think, say, do, believe, and the unconscious competencies that I have, meaning I direct all my personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions towards the faith of what I want. And also the energy, the unconscious competency of energy. All my energy is focused to what I want. And so very simply, if you take a positive attitude, a happy attitude, a perspective that everything you want exists, everything you want will come at the right way at the perfect time, you are then putting faith in what you want. And guess what? You're going to get more of what you want.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, I'm sure that resonates with a lot of the people that you're listening to. I'm curious, though, you mentioned that you were talking. Did you say it was your son that was watching it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
4. I have 3 daughters and 1 son.
Incredible. And you're so inspirational and motivational. You're such a thought leader. Are your kids just like the most cognitively awake human beings as they get this from you 24/7?
It's crazy. They are, and I hate bragging about my kids. They're exceptional human beings. I think genetically they're blessed, but moreover, they have been exposed to not just my thinking, but other world thought leaders, being on the Transformational Leadership Council with Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, best friends with Cynthia Kersey and Blaine Bartlett, and all these amazing and extraordinary people. Like even last night, we had Edwin Arayabe and Teddy Mellencamp over. And I'm trying to surround them with the spirit of excellence. Obviously, the Pro Football Hall of Famers that we've been around, like Troy Aikman, Steve Young, and of course my business partner and best friend, Warren Moon. They've picked up a lot of traits. They've picked up a lot of energy from the aggregate of what I've been able to surround them with. And it also is a challenge for them. I'll give you an example. My 17-year-old who's graduating high school was asked to do the keynote speech at her graduation. And immediately her friends were like, yeah, but your dad wrote the speech for you. That's why they selected you. And to be fair, I only listened to her speech after she wrote it herself. And I gave her a suggestion to add 2 words, which was most importantly, comma. And after she was selected to do the keynote and during the re-engineering of the speech, as they selected her to go over it with her, the only 2 words they took out of the speech was most importantly, comma. So
you got redacted.
Exactly. It just goes to show you, though, that, I've always been around celebrities, athletes, and entertainers. And to be a kid of someone who has exposure and a little bit of a following can work to a detriment if you're not confident in who you are. And luckily, all 4 of my children, I have empowered to empower others to be happy. That's my main objective.
I think that's great. And when you're talking about parenting, you talk about creating habits. And this is something else that you talk to all of your followers about, creating consistent habits to maximize performance. How does that translate from parenting and then also just into inspiring and motivating others?
Yeah, well, I feel as a leader that I'm a parent to a lot of people, and most importantly, my own children. And the most important thing that I can teach is consistency. And the reason is consistency is what leads to the conscious habits that we have, as well as the subconscious beliefs that we have, as well as this unconscious competency, which I was discussing earlier. And the reason is that we have 10,000 new inputs into our system a day, 10,000 things that we think, say, and do, 10,000 things that we sense with the 5 senses that we have that are inputted into the cellular memory that we have. And those are then dispelled into the 40,000 of the same thoughts we have, which is our subconscious, which then impact the most powerful part of our body, which is the DNA, the unconscious competency of our personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions, and our energy. And so what I do is I actually lower the bar and I teach people that you'd rather do things for 2 minutes a day than for 2 hours on a Saturday or even 20 hours on a Saturday. And we never want to overdo it. And that consistency is what creates an exponential growth, acceleration in what we want, or in other words, the aggregate of faith. So for my kids, as well as anyone else that I'm teaching, coaching, executive business coaching, coaching the coach, or just giving an inspirational speech like I did at Thrive last weekend, it's all about consistency. And it's knowing what you want, lowering the bar and doing it every day that will provide the inspiration of why, and then also asking for help to get the how.
I love that. I really love that. I'm so glad you mentioned the consistency needs to be the primary focus. We have a lot of runners that tune into the podcast. There are a lot of runners that follow me, and they all want to be great tomorrow. They say, well, I just need to train harder. And I'm like, no, you need to train smarter. And you need to focus on consistency. I always say I'm way more impressed with the runner that runs 1 mile a day for 7 days in a row than the guy that runs a 7-miler on Sunday and can't walk the next day. It is all about consistency first.
That's so beautiful, because that's what people do emotionally. They do it physically. They do it mentally. And then, like you said, they're unable to perform because they think that they're doing such a great job because, they ran 50 miles or whatever ridiculous thing that they're overcompensating for. I actually have instituted that exact same thing where I run 3 miles because I feel that's enough impact on a 51-year-old body. But I run 3 miles in the same exact way. I lowered the bar. I said, look, I'm going to start 3 miles at 12-minute miles. And now I'm trying to break 20 minutes.
That's
so
great.
To go from 36 minutes down where I know that if I did the other way, which is, hey, I'm going to run 10 Ks, I'm going to train, not every day, but just do something light and easy. What's 20 minutes a day? And the impact that those 3 miles have are very limited. And I feel better than I ever have because I have extra time to stretch, to do balance exercise, to do mental exercises. And I put a minimum of 1 hour a day on my health. I put minimums of 2 minutes a day to talk to my teenage daughters. I asked for 5, they gave me 2. I put a minimum of 1 minute a day to talk to my mom, to tell her I love and appreciate her, because I literally asked my mom specifically, what is it you want from me? What's the best thing I can do for you? And she said, all I want you to do is let me know that you love and appreciate me.
Wow.
So I give her a minute a day to do that. Then I have my 9-year-old and my wife, which I give 30 minutes a day. So I give undivided attention, a minimum of 30 minutes a day. All numbers to me are always minimum, because the minute you don't put a minimum on amount of time, you're limiting yourself. You're putting limits on what you can do. You're actually creating resistance at what you're trying to achieve.
I love that. We started this conversation by saying time is our most limited resource. And I love that you set these minimums and you kind of allocate at least the minimum amount of energy and time that it takes to have successful relationships or successful businesses. I'm just genuinely curious, how do you structure your days? It must be really difficult. You've said you've got the mobile office. I know you're in 100 meetings a day. How do you do this? Do you have somebody helping you? You must.
Well, I always have someone helping me with everything, right? Because I want to leverage the situational knowledge, experience, and help of others so that I can provide more help to others at what I'm good at. But more importantly, I have two different routines. And people, I think it's really important to understand that we have to have two different routines. One routine is when I'm at home. The other routine is when I'm on the road. And so the routine at home is very specific because I can do what I do and I can control my schedule and whatever else is going on. So I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. at home. On the road, I wake up at the same time, Pacific time. So if I'm New York, it's 7 a.m. If I'm in London, it's closer to 10 a.m. I fudge it a little to about 9 a.m. But I try to stay on a time zone where I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. and I stay awake as long as I can, which is something different than what most people would anticipate, right? They say, what time do you go to bed? I go to bed when I pass out, right? Because my goal is to utilize all my energy efficiently and effectively. And in the end of the day, I should be out of energy when I'm done. And then that's the way that I'm going to sleep the most. I know that there's 24 hours in a constructed man-made day, and I'm going to utilize those as a student of my calendar with a lens of productivity and accessibility, including my sleep. So I have studied sleep. I put as much time into understanding my sleep as I had into the efficiencies of my schedule, because that is one thing that I do every single day, 5 hours to 8 hours every single day I'm sleeping. So I may well be an expert at it to get the most energy out of my sleep, consciously, subconsciously, and unconsciously. So I wake up at 4 a.m. when I'm at home. I meditate for 20 minutes. I get my gym clothes laid out from the morning before. I go to the gym directly by 4:30. I start that workout and I make sure that I'm back home by 5:35, where I then am a student of my calendar up until 6 a.m. when I wake up my son. I then wake up my son, get ready with him. I make breakfasts and lunches. I spend time with my wife, my son, and my 3 teenage daughters. I call the one that's at college when she's there. She's now home. By 7:30, I'm on the road. I do 3 coaching calls at 10 minutes each. Into 8 o'clock, I trace my calligraphies. I then start my day, which is already orchestrated from the previous day by being a student of my calendar. I have a 5:20 rule where all my phone calls are limited into an objective of trying to keep them under 5 minutes if possible. And all my meetings and interviews are 20 minutes, and I try to keep those on time as well. Therefore, people don't realize, but I can take 12 phone calls in an hour. I can take 3 meetings or interviews in an hour, utilizing, since I wake up at 4 a.m., by about 9 a.m., I've done more in that 5 hours than most people do in an entire day.
So true.
I make sure I prioritize. I have a do it now folder. So everything in my day, I ask myself, can I do it now? If I can do it now, I do it because it saves me twice as much time. And it also makes me statistically successful if I'm able to do it now. If not, it goes into a do it now folder where I'm prioritizing and knocking everything off the top of that prioritized do it now list in the free space of my calendar, which I study every day as hard as I study what I'm going to do in person, on the phone, via email, media, social media, radio, print, TV, all of that's studied. And I do that in an efficient, effective, and statistically successful way. Remember, the lens of productivity and accessibility allows me to focus in on how productive, how much value am I providing, and 2, how accessible am I to others, and how am I accessing what I want by asking one simple question. Do you know anybody that can help me? Do you know anything that can help me? If I'm not asking that in person, on the phone, via email, and by media every day, I'm exponentially losing out, because most people today know a minimum of 1,000 people. And so even if I only do that one time a day, by the end of the month, I've increased my network of energy and the power of intention by 31,000 people minimum. Now, in actuality, I ask so many different times a day, it's millions of people that my network's growing, whether they're sharing my content, doing good deeds, empowering others to empower others to be happy. It doesn't matter. I'm asking them, do you know anyone that can help me with my objectives, and how could I be of service?
I love it. I love it. You know, I think some of our listeners are listening to your schedule and they're just getting exhausted just hearing you describe it. But I found that there's this thing, I think a lot of people, high productivity individuals, find that by structuring a day like that, by having every minute allocated, it's easier because there's no margin for error. You just go from one task to the next. It's the idle time that can be hard for people like you, David. Is that how you find your schedule?
Well, yeah. Well, what I do though is schedule those idle times, right? Like I schedule 20 minutes to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the free space in my calendar, knowing that I'm going to use that as do it now time. So although in essence it's scheduled as free time, it's still scheduled. I schedule date night with my wife. I schedule the time that I'm going to spend with my kids. I actually put them on the calendar at the time that I anticipate making sure that I make my 1-minute call if I didn't get my daughter in college. I make sure that's in there at 7:30 p.m., which is 9:30 p.m. Central Time when she's at school. Whatever it is, I am very detailed into that schedule so that can be efficient, effective, and statistically successful. The one thing that you also want to understand is the third quarter. And this is very interesting because if you watch the Golden State Warriors, one of the most interesting things that I note is that Steve Kerr has them focus on the third quarter. Now, you guys are all runners, and you'll understand that the third quarter of the race is the law of the race.
It truly
so what happens is, right, you don't have to worry about the first quarter because you actually almost have to worry about conserving energy in the first quarter. Second quarter, we haven't hit that law. So if we put our impetus or focus in on really having the third quarter be our strongest quarter, what happens is our fourth quarter is always naturally our strongest quarter, no matter how much energy we've exerted in the third quarter. You can't wear yourself out in the third quarter. You can wear yourself out in the first and second quarter. And the reason is because you can't be fit for the third quarter. I believe that the third quarter of the day is the law of the day. And that's where you really got to get focused. You really got to prepare for that efficiency. What happens is most people naturally law. So just like in the game that went on yesterday, which was the second championship game where Golden State had an 18-0 run at the Toronto Raptors, that's because Steve Kerr focuses on truly his third quarter is the fourth quarter because he knows naturally the human mind, body, and soul will react to the fourth quarter. So in essence, he's getting 2 fourth quarters out of his team.
Yeah.
Do the same thing with your day.
It's so true. In the mile, we always talk about the third lap. That's the lap that makes or breaks you. Everybody can run the last lap. That's just kicking for the finish. It's the third lap that separates the men from the boys. Hey, I love that you use sport analogies for life. And we can't talk about sport without talking about losses. You have some great words of wisdom on how to use losses as a way to maximize your future. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, like there's why me people, which no athlete is, which is like, poor me, everything happens to me. Then there's the optimists that are like, try me, I'm going to get through this. I'm optimist, man. I believe that all of this, I am. And I believe that all of the things that other people see as struggles, challenges, voids, shortages, obstacles in sports and in life are the things that we call mistakes. Right? And they're miracles. And what I see is that this is something I don't understand. And how quickly can I gain the awareness, the skills, the knowledge to understand this, to get better, right? To live at a higher vibration, a higher awareness. So I see them, it's kind of trite to say opportunities. I actually see them as miracles. So if anything in my life happens that other people would say losses, other people would say mistakes, struggles, voids, challenges, not me. I look at it and go, oh, here's another miracle. What am I supposed to understand? What am I supposed to learn? How much stronger am I supposed to get? And this is something that I need, just like I need water and air. This is something I need in order to expand, accelerate, and exponentially grow. And to use a running analogy, most people, if you focus not in on the ends, but on the acceleration and exponential growth, every lap that you take, whatever the speed is, you know that the next lap is going to be exponentially better because you're taller and you're faster, right? If all we focus in on is every lap of my life, I'm going to be taller and faster. Every lap gets better and better and better. And so that's where my perspective lies in the acceleration and exponential growth of what I'm doing, knowing that that makes me taller and that makes me faster.
I love it. David, thank you so much for your time and your words of wisdom. Wishing you nothing but the best this week. I know it's a busy week for you. And next time I'm down in Southern California, I'm going to tag along for one of those 3-milers.
You got it, my friend. Remember, no busy. We're just active. Be active. Remember, 2 activities. There's activity you make money with, activity you don't make money with. And July 16th, I'm coming out with a great business book about sports. It's called Game Time Decision Making. You can go ahead and pre-buy it on Amazon. Go ahead and reach out if you can't afford it. I'll give you one. But it is Game Time Decision Making, July 16th. It'll have a lot of these types of analogies and stories to help you accelerate and exponentially grow in your life.
So I'm talking about. We will certainly link that in the show description. David, thank you so much. Have a great day, my man.
You too. Have a great day. Thanks for staying on the 20-minute rule. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
A big thank you to everyone for joining us on that episode. If you want to find out more or listen to other episodes, go to rungum.com/podcast. Also, please make sure to subscribe on iTunes or your preferred player. I'm Nick Simmons, and you've been listening to the Run the Day podcast. Until next time.